Opening his eyes, Dewey Jones found himself thrown into Azkaban as a Death Eater. That was an unforgettable memory. It has developed my good habits. Only mages who hold large swords are good mages. I am the Hogwarts sword saint of the new era. Some birds are destined not to be caged, because every feather of them shines with the radiance of freedom. Keywords of the novel. Starting from Azkaban with no pop-ups, starting from Azkaban with full download of TXT, starting from Azkaban with the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Opening and closing Azkaban, new book setting sail. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Opening and closing Azkaban, new book setting sail, Ghouling Pavilion. A long sealed treasure trove. In such a vast space, there is only one notebook lying on the ground covered in dust. Today, an old man opened the door to the treasure trove. He followed the clues left by the person and found this place. Upon seeing this note, the old man was cautious not to touch it with his hands. The old wand waved gently. The diary flew up and automatically opened. What was printed into the old man's crescent-shaped glasses was a piece of national essence, and at the same time, he didn't expect to hear someone cursing in his ear, which was a very familiar voice. Merlin's beard. Oh, the old man showed a hint of surprise. He's really a hot-tempered young man. He said. This diary, like a yelling letter, has a sound. When I open my notebook, someone is roaring. Hysteric. If Despicable Halbo gives me another chance, I will definitely commit suicide before being imprisoned in Azkaban. In that place, it's really terrifying. Life is more than death. Even if I escape, it will always become my nightmare. I haven't had a good sleep for a long time. These foolish Ministry of Magic bureaucrats, these disgusting Dementors. One day, I will kill all the Dementors, all. This disgusting thing shouldn't even appear in the magic world. I want to throw all the bureaucrats from the Ministry of Magic into Azkaban. I swear. Someone used blue ink to vent their emotions in this ordinary diary. Anger overflows in words. Below this paragraph, there is also a pseudonym written. Dewey Jones. Dewey Jones. It's indeed you. Are you calling me here to show me your emotional journey? This is really interesting. Although you are not my most proud student, you are the most interesting person I have ever seen. The old man smiled lightly and continued flipping through the pages. After reading this page, the person reading the diary seems to be interested in this diary. He flipped through the pages with his old wand and arrived at the first page. On the first page of this diary, there are increasingly sloppy sentences written. The sound it emits is becoming increasingly insane. Hell difficulty task, when I open my eyes, is Azkaban in front of me. How could I be with Bella, this crazy woman, and be sent to Azkaban? No. No, I need to escape from prison, I don't want to go to Azkaban. I am innocent. Damn Voldemort. Damn the Ministry of Magic. Damn Dumbledore. Minister, Auror, Striker, White Demon King, Black Demon King, and the damn bureaucrats of the Ministry of Magic. You are all a group of idiots. I will definitely come out of Azkaban. These blue pools in the Ministry of Magic must pay the price for their actions. Upon hearing that he was called the White Demon King, the old man was somewhat speechless. He lifted his old wand and flicked away several evil spells hidden in the pages, feeling even more helpless. Naughty little guy. He said. Until now, the old man still doesn't know how Dewey escaped from Azkaban. He doesn't even know where this little guy went. He played half a person from the wizarding world. It's really curious. Just as the old man wanted to gain a deeper understanding of Dewey's psychological process. Behind him, the door lock was opened. A huge figure walked in. Hagrid was wearing his big robe, jingling. His face was very ugly and he looked like he was about to vomit. Mr. Principal, he said to Dumbledore, I have received what you asked for. Dewey left a curse on the door, turning the fairy who opened the door into a pig. He left behind a gold medal, saying it was for Harry Potter. He said this is the price he paid for the invisibility cloak, cash on delivery, and clear the money and goods. Is it clear between money and goods? Okay, Hagrid. Dumbledore did not seem surprised by the fact that someone had bought the Deathly Hallows for a gold coin. He naturally put the diary in his hand and said, okay, since you've got something, let's go back. The small car from Gilling is very exciting to sit in, isn't it? Would you like to sit in it again, Hagrid? But this time, I want to sit in the car in front of you. Remember to take the gold medal, it's for Mr. Potter. Dumbledore mischievously said, blinking his eyes at Hagrid, getting into the car first, and speeding towards the ground building of Gringotts, making a whoosh sound. Listening to the principal's words, Hagrid's face became even worse. He forcibly suppressed his desire to vomit, put on his windproof glasses, and said, all right, dwarf, let's start taking risks. The fairy of Gouling Pavilion showed a malicious expression. Okay, sir, hold on to the railing in your hand. The fairy looked maliciously at Hagrid, accelerated with one foot, and the car flew towards the ground of Gringotts like a rocket at an astonishing speed. A few minutes later, inside the lobby of Gringotts Bank, Hagrid's trembling feet landed on the ground of the Gringotts, and with a wow sound, he spat out the filth all over the ground. The fairy looked disgusted. Dumbledore took out his wand and waved it. Hagrid, it seems that your motion sickness problem is not very good. Dumbledore said, pulling Hagrid out of Gringotts and seeing the bustling wizards in Diagon Alley. Let's go back. Dumbledore said. I still need to continue searching for a new teacher for the school's black magic defense class. I hope this time, this teacher can substitute for the class for a longer time. There are not many qualified teachers available. He muttered in fragments and walked into the crowd with Hagrid, disappearing without a trace. In the evening of 1982. Unknown sea area. An interval that cannot be magically located. The small boat is secluded, crossing the stormy waves. From here, you can already see Azkaban. Due to nervousness and despair, Dewey Jones, who had just crossed over, felt extremely uncomfortable in his stomach and felt a bit nauseous. My whole body is also getting cold. The woman behind her was laughing wildly, which made Dewey's heart even more desperate. I don't want to go to Azkaban. I'm innocent, I'm just a pitiful wanderer. He only has these big characters in his mind. He wanted to jump off the boat, but the aurora sitting on the side and the sharks swimming in the ocean stopped him from thinking about this danger. Under the sunset, Azkaban was shrouded in a shadow. With a click, the ship docked. Dewey saw several batters from the law enforcement department of the Ministry of Magic who were staying here and hurriedly approached. They can't wait to leave here. The ship has arrived and supplies have arrived, which also indicates that the Ministry of Magic is coming and there is a shift change. There are only a few batters who have learned to call the gods to guard back and forth, and they take turns changing shifts to guard the prison. When they saw the visitor, they all breathed a sigh of relief and their faces lit up with rare smiles. But as soon as this happiness appeared, they took it back. Almost attracted that group of dementors. A batter muttered. Dewey's gaze swept over these hitters and turned to look behind them. Behind them, there is a cliff several hundred meters high. On this cliff, it is the location of the heavy prisoners of this magical prison, as well as the habitat of the Dementors and the future home of Dewey. Dementors, those powerful and evil black magic creatures, like big bats, dance among the ruins of the castle on the cliff. At a glance, Dewey feels his breath freeze. These damn, dirty things. Mad-eyed Moody couldn't help but mutter. Even the elite Aurora doesn't like these dark magic creatures. He felt like he was soaking in the cold seawater here, damp and desperate. He took out the chocolate from his clothes, broke it, and handed it to these batters. Beside him, 3 elite Aurors held their wands and stared at these recidivists on the ship. The batters behind are also eyeing, as long as a few guys on the ship move, they will cast evil spells. After scanning through the Dementors, Mad-Eyed Moody looked at the prisoners he was escorting, took a sip of wine, and exhaled at them, saying, "Aha, you bastards, enjoy your wonderful life here. I swear you will rot here, definitely. Together with your master." Dewey Jones didn't speak, his heart was as disheartened as death. "I am wronged," he said in a low voice. His words drew ridicule from the women behind him. "You coward, disgusting maggot. Master doesn't have a cowardly subordinate like you. You should be grateful that I don't have a wand. Otherwise, I would use digging my heart and bones to make you understand what loyalty is," the woman behind said crazily, spitting everywhere. Originally, she had a pretty face, but now she's twisted and in a mess. Dewey glanced at the woman and then saw several senior Death Eater officials beside her, with a look of despair in his eyes. He didn't understand why he could be so unlucky. When he traveled over, he found himself in London. Before he could figure out the situation, he saw the senior Death Eater officials around him. In 1981, Voldemort Avada Harry Potter failed and ran away, his soul flying over several countries to Albania. The Ministry of Magic has begun a comprehensive counterattack. Auror hunted down the fleeing Death Eaters everywhere. The owner of his body, Dewey Jones, a Ravenclaw from the Eagle House, a loyal Death Eater, had some sort of brain drain. At this point, he didn't look for a way out and went to the Ministry of Magic to plead for mercy, claiming to have been under the soul-snatching spell and controlled by Voldemort in an attempt to escape punishment. He acted in the opposite way, colluding with senior officials of the Death Eaters, and conspiring with the mad woman Bellatrix Lestrange, her husband, and Barty Jr. to arrest the Aurora Bartons, torture them, and inquire about Voldemort's whereabouts. He is an accomplice in inquiring about information. As a result, everyone was caught. Bella and her husband, Barty Jr., were sentenced to life imprisonment and life imprisonment in Azkaban. Dewey was sentenced to 40 years in prison and also served the same sentence in Azkaban. "Get off the ship, you scum." Mad-Eyed Moody held his wand and said to them. "Azkaban is the name of this island. Here, the entire island is Azkaban, and only convicted criminals are imprisoned in the Dementor's lair. Most of the other light prisoners are thrown outside the castle and will not be constantly harassed by the Dementors. Their chances of surviving are much higher. Call out to the God Guardian." Mad-Eyed Moody summoned his own guardian deity and led them towards the castle on the cliff. Dewey and several people behind him were all controlled by the soul-seizing curse, following closely behind Mad-Eye Moody. Outside the castle, the Dementors flying up and down looked very happy. They feel like they're going to have an extra meal today. Dewey was thrown into the castle, the light disappeared, and the Dementors rushed forward, sucking heavily. Without even thinking, Dewey was sucked away by the Dementors and passed out. After finishing their meal, the Dementors turned and left here to seek other pleasures. Mad-Eyed Moody continued to lead the other prisoners towards deeper parts of the prison. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Sirius Black, collect if you like. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Sirius Black, collect if you like. I don't know how much time has passed. Awakening once again, life is better than death. Dewey opened his eyes, like a wriggling maggot, struggling for a moment. How can I leave Azkaban? Dewey doesn't know. He doesn't even know how many days he spent in the castle and how many times he was absorbed by the Dementors. The castle of Azkaban has no locks, no prison, and anyone can move freely. As long as you are not afraid of free movement and encounter a hungry Dementor, you can run around and try your luck. In the castle, everyone curled up in the corner like babies, trying to look inconspicuous and praying that they wouldn't be discovered by the Dementors. Unfortunately, Dementors do not rely on their eyes to observe creatures. They are blind and their eyes only contain happiness. In the castle, the time for dementors to devour happiness is not fixed. They are heavy criminals, belonging to the dementors' buffet. This ancient castle ruins exude a sense of despair from top to bottom. The deeper you go, the more dementors there are. The number of heavy prisoners also increases. Even the number of corpses is even higher. After a small number of people die, they will be brought out by dementors and buried in cemeteries. Most people, when their bones smell, nobody pays attention. Many people here have chosen to go on hunger strike and die. Endless pain is more terrifying than death. Dewey doesn't have it. Innocence and how to leave Azkaban are not pleasant thoughts. In this way, both of these things were firmly remembered by Dewey, not consumed by the dementors, but instead, because of their beautiful memories, they were absorbed and taken away by the dementors, becoming clearer. Malicious hatred, like beautiful emotions, will ferment over time and become more intense. The more time he spends in Azkaban, the more his hatred towards dementors, Death Eaters, Ministry of Magic, and black magic increases day by day. He ate numbly, just for a vague feeling. I can definitely leave Azkaban. Here, he forgot that he was a traveler. In a daze, I don't know how many years have passed. On today, which is not a special day, Dewey heard a voice coming from his ear. Ding dong. He didn't move, curled up on the ground, on the shattered castle, and the sunlight fell on him, causing him to feel a little happy. It should be noon. Quickly, the Dementor will smell the scent of happiness, track it over, and suck up the few joys from him. The happiness in his memory was almost absorbed by the Dementors. Lying on the ground, Dewey did his best and finally saw the panel in front of him, trying to understand it. He has a glimmer of happiness and hope again. This is my golden finger and also my opportunity to leave here. He didn't even want to think about how the golden finger appeared. He just needs it to appear. Just to leave. User. Dewey Jones, pseudonym, learned card. None title. None magic value. 10 magic essence. 0 dueling point. 0, just these simple 2 lines of text, Dewey recognized for a while, and it took him a few minutes to understand that it was a card system. He almost forgot what a golden finger is and how to spell it. Cards. What are cards? What should I do? He found the question mark on the panel, clicked on it, and suddenly became excited. He understood the usage of the golden finger. This card system is similar to Magic Awakening, but obtaining cards here requires him to compete. If you damage the enemy in battle, they will randomly drop cards. The cards dropped by enemies are related to their daily usage frequency. Fallen cards can be learned and cast without a wand. Of course, using a wand will consume less mana. As for the magic essence and dual points, he doesn't care how to obtain them. He glanced twice and knew that these two had no effect on improving his current situation. What he wants is a card. You can leave the card here. Heaven favors. In that moment, Dewey thought of a way to leave here. He curled up tightly, carving words on the ground with a sharp stone at his hand. While he was engraving a name, a Dementor who was not far from here drifted over. He smelled joy. He is going to have dinner. Watching Dewey lying on the ground, he sucked deeply at him with his indistinct face. In that moment, Dewey felt his memories and happiness leave him. He hugged himself tightly and fainted. After the Dementors were full, they floated out of here. When I woke up again, it was already evening. The guardian deity of the outside hitter walked in with food. Dewey mechanically reached out, ate the food, drank the water, and then saw the name on the ground. A sloppy name. Blake. Sirius Black. Looking at the name on the ground, Dewey's mind seemed like a tide, and he remembered it. He knew that his hope of leaving Azkaban lay with the owner of this name. This is also his only chance. Within 3 centuries, 2 people escaped from Azkaban. One is little Barty, who was replaced by his own mother. With the convenience of his position, old Barty replaced his son with a compound soup with his seriously ill wife. Dementors do not recognize faces. They could only perceive that a healthy person, old Buddy, came in with a dying person, little Buddy's mother, and then this healthy person left with a dying person, little Buddy. The seriously ill old mother was replaced by a crazy Death Eater. Another one is Sirius Black. His departure was due to magic. He is an animagus who has not been registered with the Ministry of Magic. Animagus is a term used by people to refer to wizards who can transform into animals. After becoming animagus, Dementors only see one animal. Dementors are not aggressive towards animals. Little Barty's departure route did not help him at all. Dewey knew that he did not have a father of a high-ranking official in the Ministry of Magic, nor did he have a mother willing to die for him. He can only rely on himself. He wants to duel with Sirius, beat him, and ask him to drop the card of Animagus. After obtaining the card, he can turn into an animal, slip out of the castle, and leave by boat. There are ships circulating in the UK here, with supplies and batters coming to replace them. This is his only chance. Hope. What wonderful words. Dewey felt like he had come back to life. He stood up trembling, pressing the sharp stone in his hand and looking deep into the castle. The deeper this magical relic goes, the more Dementors linger. Even if he knew that Sirius Black was locked deeper, and that there was a way for him to leave, seeing the dancing Dementors, Dewey's physical and psychological resistance was still dual, making it impossible for him to enter the depths of the castle. Ah! He fiercely plunged the stone into his thigh, and in the excruciating pain, Dewey regained some consciousness. He gritted his teeth and walked towards the depths of the castle. Blood dripped down, and Dewey kept cheering himself on. I am innocent. Ministry of Magic. Death Eaters. Voldemort. Revenge. Freedom. Happy. Chocolate. Hot cocoa. Son, with every word he said, he took another step deeper into the castle, inspiring himself with hope and intense pain, surrounded by Dementors circling around him. These monsters haven't tasted any taste of happiness. Dementors know that they only allow the use of Dementor's Kiss for prisoners who have escaped to the sea. Besides, they cannot take the initiative to kill. This is their agreement with the wizard. For the prisoner who walked inside himself, they couldn't help but beg for it. That's the taste of food. Dewey felt like he was immersed in the decaying seawater, and the surrounding Dementors called him breathless. But it doesn't matter, he looked over one cage at a time, searching for Sirius. These prisons are not closed. The prisoner inside seemed dead, sitting there dumbfounded, motionless. Here, he saw many high-level members of the Death Eaters, who looked at Dewey with a blank expression. However, these were not important anymore. He also saw Bella, the cousin of Sirius. Among these serious criminals, only Bella and a few Death Eaters remained active. Finally, after opening a prison, he saw a man with a scruffy beard that he had never seen before. Dewey leaned against the wall, weakly continuing the experiment. He didn't hold any hope in his heart either. Peter the dwarf is still alive. He tentatively said that if this person were really serious, he would jump up. Upon hearing these words, the sitting man suddenly lifted his head. He looked at Dewey numbly. Dewey saw that he didn't react and planned to turn around and try again. To his surprise, he carefully pondered and suddenly stood up. He grabbed Dewey as if suddenly he had vitality. What are you saying? It's impossible. Why did you know about Peter the dwarf? I killed him myself. He roared softly and stared at Dewey, incredulous. Dewey also stared at him. He felt a hint of joy from the bottom of his heart, even though he knew it would attract Dementors. But he didn't care anymore. You are Sirius Black. Dewey confirmed again and muttered to himself. I have found Sirius Black. Sirius Black didn't speak. He grabbed Dewey and said, what are you talking about? Peter the dwarf confirmed that the person in front of him was Sirius Black. He didn't wait for Sirius to speak again. Dewey exerted all his strength and punched him hard in the cheek. Give it to me. A punch knocked down the strong man, and he threw himself at Sirius with all his might, punching and kicking, without even feeling the pain in his legs. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. The hysterical roar alarmed even the surrounding Death Eaters. His nonchalant appearance caught even the towering Sirius off guard for a moment. Sirius was knocked dizzy and disoriented, with nosebleeds flowing out and his mouth torn. The blood remained on his teeth, making him look particularly terrifying. New book period, 12, noon, 5 p.m., end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Despicable Exchange. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Despicable Exchange. Sirius Black heard the wild roar of the person in front of him and felt like he had met a madman. But why would a lunatic know about the dwarf Peter? Everyone thought Peter was dead and he killed him on the street. He also thinks the same way. So he laughed heartily when he was caught. He avenged James and Lily. Sirius forced his rusty head to struggle and think at this moment. He hasn't touched his head for a long time. Under the devastation of the Dementors, there were no normal people in the entire Azkaban. So is Dewey. He can only keep his brain running and thinking by relying on a little bit of hope in his mind. Except for the Death Eaters, most of the other recidivists committed suicide in prison. Only faith and hatred are the only antidote here. At this moment, he gritted his teeth and punched Sirius hard in the face. Blake felt a buzzing sound in his mind. Even at Hogwarts, he had never been beaten like this before. Usually they beat others up, no one has ever dealt with them like this before. He let out a roar, wanting to counterattack, but was cleverly dodged by Dewey. Dewey saw a card drop from the ground under his heavy blow. Only the cards he can see. He rushed forward in ecstasy, and the card was instantly absorbed into him. A burst of information appeared in his mind. He felt like he had learned this kind of magic. Inverted golden bell, hanging golden bell upside down. One of the small spells created by Half-Blood Prince Severus Snape, which can hang a person upside down, like a sniff grabbed by an ankle. Oh, Lily, it's not what you see, damn it. Seeing that this card was not the one he wanted, Dewey cursed and quickly turned around. Just as he absorbed this card, Sirius charged up. Even if it doesn't turn into a big black dog, Sirius can still be considered a big and powerful person. He grabbed Dewey and punched him, but Dewey lowered his head to avoid him. Dewey feels that his boxing foundation is indeed not bad. Dodging this, Dewey silently cast a spell. Inverted golden bell. In a moment, Sirius Black was grabbed by an invisible pair of hands at his ankle and hung upside down. He widened his eyes in surprise, never realizing that someone could cast spells silently in Azkaban without a staff. How did he do it? He opened his mouth because Sirius didn't shout out because he hadn't spoken for a long time. He is even unfamiliar with his speaking skills. Dewey had already pounced. With just one cast, all 10 of his magic points disappeared. On the contrary, his number of duels has increased to 1. The whole person was upside down, and Sirius only had time to utter these words before being punched in the face again. Dewey hung on in one breath. He can't stop. What he wants now is animagus. He can ignore everything else. This time, a card fell off Sirius again. Armor protection, armor protection. Darling, if you're looking for an effective defense magic, believe me, it must be it. The armor curse, your good companion during duels. Hi Fred, those fools from the Ministry of Magic don't know how to use armor protection. We're getting rich. I was hit hard again, and Sirius's liver fire erupted. The first level inverted golden clock hung Sirius upside down in less than a second, and he was called to fall to the ground. Looking at the tall and thin figure in front of him, Sirius rushed forward and knocked him down with just one punch. Dewey and he rolled back and forth on the ground, but in the end, Dewey was still pinned down by Sirius and rode on. Weight suppression. Sirius is really like a big black dog, powerful and powerful. He gasped for breath and spat bloody saliva towards the side. Tell me, he said, staring at Dewey with his deep gray pupils, why do you know? Dewey guessed that he wanted to ask why Dewey knew about the dwarf Peter. But he's going to miscalculate. I felt the drowning sensation like a tide. Dewey curled up with familiarity and hugged his head. They're here. The scent of happiness has dissipated. Before Sirius could finish speaking, suddenly, a drowning like despair and cold enveloped the place. Damn it, Dementors. The two of them didn't even know where the Dementor came from, and Sirius half knelt on the ground. In despair, he weakly let go of Dewey. Merlin's beard. Even if he had anticipated it earlier, Dewey was enveloped in the cold despair of the Siberian cold wind. He felt the joy in his mind being mercilessly drained away by others. He hugged himself tightly and fainted. Similarly, Sirius also fainted. After the Dementor floating in the air ate happiness, it left contentedly, leaving behind two men lying on the ground, unaware of life or death. I don't know how much time passed, but Dewey woke up first. Without considering checking his own dual points, he looked at Sirius, who was still unconscious next to him, and punched him again. Drop the card, take a look, it's not what you need. One more punch, at a glance, it's not what you need. Dewey felt the despair in his heart becoming increasingly intense, even his fists becoming weaker. He is tired. Suddenly, his expected punch did not hit Sirius in the face. His fist was held in one hand. Sirius also woke up. Stop. Sirius, like a wild beast, grabbed Dewey's arm and lifted him open. Stop. Sirius muttered to himself, his face ferocious as he stood up with a stone beside him. It seemed that he was about to use it to smash Dewey's head open and expose his brain. Looking at Sirius, whose face was covered in blood and ready to fight back, Dewey saw that he had recovered to the interface of 10 magic points, and then saw these few cards. He immediately thought of a better idea. He did not use the inverted golden clock again. Lose morality, and you can live a better life. Dewey thought. He had an idea that he didn't need to be beaten. Okay, Sirius, let's get rid of you first. You're the stone at hand, unless you still want to be like before, hanging upside down by me. Dewey pointed at Blake and screamed in shock. Sirius smiled ferociously. You can give it a try, although I don't know who you are, I will definitely smash your head before you cast the spell. Sirius said fiercely, don't doubt my methods and determination. Dewey reached out his head and said, then break it open, Sirius, unless you don't want to know where I got the news about Peter the Dwarf from. Peter the Dwarf is not only alive, he is still by your godson's side. The Dark Lord is recovering. Guess what Peter the Dwarf will do when he hears this news? Lily and James' son, what will happen to him? This sentence hit Sirius's soft spot, as if he had been filled with strength and turned around. He threw away the stone at hand and picked up Dewey again. Do you know what you're talking about, you bastard? If you lie to me, I will eat you. Believe me, on behalf of the Black family, I swear that if you lie to me, I will definitely kill you. Who are you? What do you know? He asked Dewey, feeling excited. Dewey leaned against the wall, ignoring Sirius. He only felt his stomach was very hungry, which means he might have missed lunchtime when he was unconscious. This is not good news. Azkaban is not a buffet restaurant, they have a time limit for serving meals every day. You called me missing lunch, or dinner with Sirius. Dewey said. I can answer your question, but every time you ask a question, you get punched by me. If you agree, we can start. If you don't agree, you can break my head, or cast spells without a staff, capture the mind, and I can do it. Please do as you please. Dewey's dead pig continued without fear of boiling water. He doesn't fight back, scolds, and looks like I won't say anything if you don't ask me to beat you. Sirius released his big hand. He stared at Dewey. Dewey knew he would submit. Compared to the news from Peter the Dwarf, Sirius wouldn't mind being hit twice on his head. He is a person who cherishes friendship and family. Especially when Harry Potter is his own child. For Harry Potter. He doesn't mind getting 2 more punches on his face. Dewey didn't feel much about using beauty as a despicable means of blackmail. In Azkaban, people with morality and conscience have long committed suicide. Apart from Voldemort's loyal followers, there are only innocent people like Dewey and Sirius Black who are still struggling to support themselves. He is leaving here. Anyway. No matter what means are used. Upon hearing Dewey's words, Sirius leaned his face towards him. Great, I remember your face now, miscellaneous. Let's start quickly. He said. Dewey looked at Sirius's face and punched him with all his might. A card fell, and Dewey had no strength to stand up. He crawled over, absorbed the card, and said weakly, "All right, a punch fell. You can ask the first question." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. He was at Hogwarts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. He was at Hogwarts. I don't know how long time has passed. Dewey is full of old punches toward Sirius. My fists are a bit soft and weak. User. Dewey Jones, pseudonym, learned cards. Inverted Golden Bell, Level 1, Blue Treasure, Armor Protection, Level 1, White Normal, Faint to the Ground, Level 1, White Normal, *2, Araho Cave Open, Level 1, White Normal, *2 Title. None Magic Value. 10 Magic Essence. 0 Dueling Point. 1. Dewey struggled to lean against the wall. He noticed that the dropping of these cards was not entirely random. The more common and commonly used cards on Sirius are, the more they will drop. For example, the Araho Cave is a very common spell used to open the door lock. Dewey also doesn't know why Sirius is so persistent in prying at the door lock. There are too many Araho holes in the dropped cards. As for the dual points and magic points, the essence of magic, Dewey doesn't care what they are. His brain, under the ravages of Dementors, can only think with a single thread. You can ask, which question is it? It doesn't matter, let's ask. Dewey said that long-term malnutrition leaves him with no extra energy to fight. He is a bit drowsy. Sirius Black's expression was very exciting, and he rubbed his hands, feeling a little uneasy. He didn't dare to ask the first few questions. But now, as he rubbed his hands and stared anxiously at Dewey with gray pupils, he asked with some panic and some longing, "Harry Potter, James' son, is he doing well? Is he still alive?" Although he knew that what he was asking might be nonsense, he still had to be punched for this nonsense, but Sirius couldn't help but ask. He wants a definite answer. Yes, that's right, he's still alive. The boy who survived the disaster, the predicted child, he's doing well and studying at Gryffindor College in Hogwarts. Dewey said, his eyelids too lazy to lift, and he struggled to punch Sirius, dropping another card. Except for your weapon, Level 1, except for your weapon. I see, I surrender. A wizard without a wand is like a tiger without teeth. This is the most brilliant spell in duels, believe me. Wouldn't your Dumbledore army use any other spells besides your weapons? Dewey saw this spell and took it back. Sirius continued to ask as if he didn't feel any pain, "Peter, you said he's still alive, why? I clearly remember killing him." This is the question he has always wanted to know. He turned into an ugly and dirty mouse and hid at the Weasley house. You know, no one cares about a mouse, especially no one knows he's an unregistered animagus. He blew up a street back then, turned into a mouse and ran away from the sewer, Dewey said. Sirius Black leaned forward and called Dewey to punch. Faint and falling to the ground, level 1, faint to the ground. There are no useless spells, only wizards who cannot use them. Hey, wouldn't your Dumbledore army use any other spells besides fainting and falling to the ground? Upon seeing this card, Dewey numbly put it away and continued to ask Sirius questions. On this day, Sirius asked many questions, and what Dewey said was both true and false. Most of the questions about Sirius are about Harry Potter. Dewey felt that with his conversation, Sirius became even more energetic. I can't continue here, he muttered to himself, I want to take down this traitor. Dewey remained non-committal and continued to ask Sirius questions, then beat him up. About 3 days have passed. Calculated from the frequency of delivering food by hitting hands. Sirius felt that Dewey's fist was completely weak and powerless, as if it was being caressed. Dewey fell into deep despair. He even played purple cards and shape-shifting, but Animagus still didn't show up. More importantly, he felt like he had a friend in this dark prison. Damn, friendship always appears when it shouldn't be. For example, now. Sirius, whose face is covered in blood. Looking at a person who has been chatting for 3 days in this dark world. Dewey is a bit hesitant to take action. Damn it, I shouldn't have chosen this condition, and I shouldn't have a conscience either. Conscience always appears when it shouldn't be, Dewey said, looking at the face of Sirius approaching and saying, I don't want to beat you anymore. You are the person who has spoken the most since I entered Azkaban, he said. Sirius is similar, he is as thin as a skeleton, but his eyes are exceptionally bright. You are not the most despicable among the Death Eaters. But it's definitely the dumbest. Dewey continued, Tom is an excellent leader, a born lunatic, a powerful wizard, but Voldemort is not. There are too many fragments of Voldemort's soul, they have all gone crazy. Aha, the greatest potion expert of this century, the snake-like voice wizard, the master of transformation, and one of the most powerful dark wizards of all time, has become what it is now. It's truly heartbreaking. Also, I am not a Death Eater. Sirius was not surprised when Dewey called out the name of the Dark Lord, and he even felt that he had wronged Dewey. He was wronged, just like himself. Those fools from the Ministry of Magic always do the wrong thing. Sirius said that he was wrongly arrested. Yeah, when I go out, I'll get rid of them all, a bunch of wine bags and rice bags. Dewey said, even Voldemort is the same. Without Voldemort, I wouldn't be here. Without those fools from the Ministry of Magic, I wouldn't be here either. These fools are going to pay the price for this matter. Dewey gritted his teeth and said, even though he knew he was going to kill Voldemort now, he still had to set a goal for himself. People without faith cannot survive in Azkaban. During the conversation, Sirius became increasingly convinced that Dewey was unjustified, and that no stubborn Death Eater would speak up and take down Voldemort. However, what Dewey said is somewhat too shocking and shocking. Take a break, we will always leave. Sirius said, he didn't know if he was comforting Dewey or comforting himself. He thinks Dewey is joking. Dewey is not joking, he really thinks so. After a meal, Dewey had just punched Sirius twice when footsteps suddenly came from outside. Call out to the God Guardian. A warm breath rushed towards us, and Sirius and Dewey couldn't help but let out a moan. This feeling is really too comfortable. It's like soaking your whole body in a hot spring. The Guardian Curse is not a very vulgar spell, and even many adult wizards may not be able to cast this spell. There are not too many people in the Ministry of Magic who can protect the Divine Curse. They mostly rotate in Azkaban. The door was pushed open, and a batter walked in, waving his wand and using some disgusted magic to change the environment here. Why are you here? The hitter saw an extra person inside the prison and gave Dewey an extra glance. Dewey didn't say a word, he chuckled hee, and spat a mouthful of blood on the hitting hand. The hitter didn't care about this small matter. He waved his wand and shaved Sirius's beard and hair, making him clean all over, even wiping the blood off his face. Someone found the newspaper from outside and put it inside. Even the blood stains on Dewey's leg were cleaned by a dedicated person. Dewey couldn't help but sneer as he watched the scene. Oh, look at our hard-working hitters, little cutie. What are you doing? Does the Ministry of Magic also engage in face-saving projects? Let me guess, is there a big shot coming to Azkaban? Humph, are you little cuties doing janitors for big shots? The batter casually cast a curse on Dewey, and the scorching fire made Dewey feel as if he had been burned by magma, with huge abscesses growing out. Don't talk nonsense, you disgusting maggot. The batter said, the next time you talk, I will say you can never speak. I will call your tongue and jump out and run away on your own. Dewey endured the pain and looked at the wand, saying, the applewood wand, 10 1/3 inches long. I have taken a liking to your wand. One day, your wand will bloom in my hand, giving it the radiance it should have. Dewey said with a strange smile. The batter glanced at Dewey again and turned to leave. There are always positions for these rude people in Azkaban cemetery. No one likes to be threatened. The same goes for hitters. The newspaper was thrown in front of them, and the batter threw Dewey out. Sirius caught the newspapers. That is a Prophet's Daily. His eyes were tightly glued to the Prophet's Daily, unable to move a single penny away. In the Prophet's Daily, there is a photo of the Weasley family. Behind them were the Egyptian pyramids, but at this moment, Sirius didn't care about anything. He didn't even pay attention to what was written in this text. He almost greedily lay on the newspaper, looking at the boys from the Weasley family. To be precise, his gaze fell on Ron Weasley's shoulder. On his shoulder, there is a fat, greasy mouse. The most important thing is that this mouse is missing a finger. Ron Weasley's pet, Little Mouse Spotted. Anyway, even if it's death, Sirius won't mistake the mouse. Peter, I found you, Peter. He reread the text and found the name of the little boy. He is Harry's classmate. Peter is still alive. Sirius suppressed his pain, joy, and worry. He's at Hogwarts, he kept telling himself, I'm going out, I'm going to protect Harry, he's at Hogwarts, he's at Hogwarts. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The New Minister of Magic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The new Minister of Magic. Dewey endured the excruciating pain as he watched his ribs roll outward as if he had come to life. Soon, another batter came over to lift the curse. It's another hitter who uses oak. He lifted the curse, not to say how compassionate this batter was towards these prisoners. The more important reason is that someone has come. You can't let those big shots from the Ministry of Magic see them tormenting prisoners. Stay here honestly, don't say a word that shouldn't be said, otherwise I'll ask you to taste the Dementor's kiss. The hitter threatened. Dewey laughed awkwardly. Like a crying night owl. Aha, it seems that this time someone must be a big shot. Don't worry, I will definitely die, but I will never die today. I won't feel the Dementor's kiss, but you will. Dewey said maliciously. Being thrown out of the house where Sirius was being held, Dewey shouted and shouted at him. Sirius Muron didn't speak, but Dewey saw that from the time he saw the Prophet's Daily, it wasn't right, it was from the time he knew that Peter the Dwarf was still alive that he had a voice. But now, he looks more like he has come to life and has a fire in his heart. Killing Peter the Dwarf is revenge, protecting Harry Potter is his ultimate goal. When I saw the Prophet's Daily and Peter was by Harry Potter's side, he came to life again. He felt like a flame burning in his heart. Even the Dementors cannot extinguish these flames. No one can harm Harry Potter. Sirius said to himself. He is accumulating strength. I can get out of here. He said to himself. Dewey was thrown out. It is obvious that this time the big shots in the Ministry of Magic are looking at prisoners, not including small minions like him. Remember what I said. The hitter threatened Dewey, "Don't talk nonsense, don't force us to summon Dementors to deal with you, scum." Dewey giggled and ate. The batter left, and Dewey began to think quickly. Without the Dementors eating on time, his mind had a little clarity. Who will come? Dewey didn't know, he didn't even know how many years it was this year. He didn't have time to read that newspaper much, and in his limited memory, he also remembered several times when the Ministry of Magic came to inspect it. Who will it be this time? What is written in the Prophet's Daily? He didn't pay attention to the newspaper because during the last 2 punches, he finally saw the card he had been longing for fall from the ground. Animagus, Animagus. A complex spell that is not very useful for combat, its side effects may be much more severe than its positive effects. High mischievous ghosts, don't touch that cat, that's your vice principal. Dewey took a deep breath and looked around. The Ministry of Magic and the Dementors had an agreement that when the higher-ups of the ministry came to inspect, these Dementors would honestly leave here and stay on the mountain behind the island. After a day, they will come again, and at that time, it will be their feast. Those damn monsters will double the amount they pay for a day of hunger without food. That is to say, if Dewey wants to leave, it's best to take this opportunity to leave. He doesn't want to stay here anymore, even for a minute or a second. 1 minute, 1 second. User. Dewey Jones, pseudonym, learned cards. Inverted Golden Bell, Level 1, Blue Treasure, Armor Protection, Level 1, White Normal, *4, Faint to the Ground, Level 1, White Normal, *6, Araho Cave Open, Level 1, White Normal, *17 Phantom Shift, Level 1, Purple Epic, Repair as Original, Level 1, White Normal, *3, Obstacled, Level 1, White Normal, *5 Floating Curse, Level 1, White Normal, *18 Animagus, Special Card, Title. None Magic Value. 10 Magic Essence. 0 Dueling Point. 1. Dewey doesn't care about these small spells, he only knows that he has a card. Animagus. When these spells appear, it's like drilling into his brain, entering his cerebral cortex, and he can freely cast these spells. Even without a wand. No staff to cast spells. This time, when he wanted to become a flying ant, he received a hint. Insufficient magic value. How could this be? Success is about to come, but the result is failure. His mood felt as if he had fallen from the mountaintop to the basin, almost ready to go crazy. This is something that Dewey cannot accept. Damn it, how can I get his mother magic value? Without time to be angry, Dewey quickly investigated and quickly discovered that the increase in magic points required a dual point conversion. 1 to 10. To obtain a dual point, he needs to fight and fight with others. Unilateral assault does not count. So Dewey only has 1 point. After fighting against Sirius, he gained some dual points. Using Animagus requires 50 mana points. That is to say, Dewey needs 4 dual points, at least 4 duels. We need to find the Death Eaters. Dewey immediately made a decision. When it comes to freedom, his mind is incredibly clear. Stumbling up from the ground, Dewey walked towards the depths of Azkaban. There are many prisoners in Azkaban, but most of them are lifeless. Even if Dewey breaks their heads, they won't fight back. Only those stubborn Death Eaters, they are different. They firmly believe that Voldemort will return and lead them towards glory. They are one of the few prisoners who maintain strength and consciousness in Azkaban. It is also rare, and there are no serious offenders who commit suicide. Bella. Dewey thought of someone, Bellatrix Lestrange, who was one of the most stubborn Death Eaters known and also the most loyal Voldemort Death Eater. If you beat her, she will definitely resist. It's really not possible, Dewey can insult Voldemort in front of her, saying that Voldemort is a dirty mud seed. Bella will never be indifferent to this sentence. Having made up his mind, Dewey glanced left and right and was thrown into a remote place, usually a gathering place for Dementors, dark and filled with resentment. But today, the Dementors are all on vacation. Dewey relied on the memories in his mind and quickly shuttled back and forth, quickly arriving at Bella's prison. Bella sat quietly inside the prison gate, which was originally unlocked, was falsely locked. Araho cave opens. Dewey cast spells without a staff. 5 magic points are fleeting, and this card system tells him that casting without a staff will consume more magic points. He needs a magic wand. For example, the Applewood wand. Applewood wand, I don't know what core it is. At present, Applewood is still very suitable for the wand of metamorphosis. Opening the door, Dewey quietly walked into the prison. Bella lifted her head and looked at Dewey. Oh, Bella glanced at Dewey, as if she had come to life. She said in her malicious, sarcastic voice, "Let's see who this is, Dewey Jones, a dirty, cowardly Ravenclaw. What are you doing here? Are you tormented by those Dementors and unable to live or die? Do you want me to break your fragile neck and release you? Or do you want me to smash your head and make the cowardice in your head escape? Do you need to throw yourself into your mother's arms and cry? Little obedient." Bella stood up and mocked Dewey. Dewey suddenly pounced. He is running out of patience. One punch. Bella was knocked down with a punch, and she opened her mouth in surprise. She didn't expect to be attacked here. By a timid, dirty Ravenclaw. She smelled the smell of blood. "How dare you? How dare you?" she said incredulously, but Dewey didn't speak. He pounced and punched again. Bella screamed and pointed at Dewey, wanting to recite a curse, but was interrupted by another punch from Dewey. He is not sure if Bella still has magic. I'm not sure if Bella will cast spells without a staff. After finishing the fight, Dewey received the card, ran out, and turned to close the door. Bella only realized at this moment. She rushed over, her veins leaking all over her hands, constantly shaking the prison door. Unfortunately, the door was locked and she couldn't shake it open no matter how she shook it. "Let me out, you disgusting and nauseating trash, let me out. I swear, I will use my wand to teach you what respect is. Release me quickly, you traitor. The Black Demon King will treat you harshly with his heart and bones gouged out. Believe me, I will definitely do this." Her loud curses had no power for Dewey. She came and went with just a few words, leaving Dewey's heart at ease. He glanced at the duel point. Dueling point, 2. The 2 cards that Bella dropped were also very Death Eaters. Avada's life, Avada desperate. Perhaps only with the malice of killing others can one cast such a vicious curse that will never be forgiven, one of the 3 unforgivable curses. Avada gnaws on big melons. Avada so min is a purple card. Dewey looked at another card. Digging into the heart and removing bones, digging heart and cutting bones. My malice towards you is to make your life worse than death. Enjoy the pleasure of this moment, wizard, one of the 3 unforgivable curses. Let us go, we really don't know the whereabouts of the Dark Lord. No, Longbottom, no, don't torture him. It's truly Bella, Dewey thought to himself. He beat Sirius for so long, but he didn't fall a black magic card. After punching Bella a few times, 2 black magic cards fell. Bella is truly a famous Death Eater and black wizard. Dewey hid in Bella's visual blind spot, and only when she was tired of scolding did she quietly pass by. With an Araho hole open, he opened the prison door and went in with another old punch. He needs to brush enough points on Bella's side to use. Bella screamed in anger as she tried several times to take down Dewey, but each time, Dewey easily escaped. She wished she could hit and die on this wall. On the other side, a ship finally approached Azkaban. Fuji, the current Minister of Magic, got off the ship and looked at Azkaban in front of him, taking a deep breath. Azkaban, he said to himself. A staff member followed behind him, pretending to have heard nothing. This time visiting the prison is one of the showcase missions of the current Minister of Magic, Mr. Cornell Fudge. For the sake of human natural power, he said to the newspaper reporter he was following. Fuji is not a qualified leader, his success was purely accidental. He became the Minister of Magic because his first-in-line competitor, Barty the Elder, lost the election due to his son's reputation as a Death Eater. The second-in-line competitor, Dumbledore, the president of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, refused the position in the Ministry of Magic. Fuji ranked third and became the Minister of Magic. He thus found a position as the Minister of Magic. Dewey wouldn't have thought that he lost his concept of time in Azkaban. He thought he was in Azkaban and had been tortured for several years. The real situation is that he is on the verge of going crazy. He was tortured for 11 years. This year is Harry Potter's third year at Hogwarts, and he is about to enter third grade at Hogwarts. Now is his second year summer vacation. He is about to pursue further education. The current time is in 1993 AD. It was exactly 11 years since he was imprisoned in Azkaban. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Freedom, Madness, and Chocolate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Freedom, Madness, and Chocolate outside the castle, in a separate cell. Dewey played with his fingers. User. Dewey Jones, pseudonym, learned cards. Inverted Golden Bell, Level 1, Blue Treasure, Armor Protection, Level 1, White Normal, *4, Faint to the Ground, Level 1, White Normal, *6, Araho Cave Open, Level 1, White Normal, *17 Phantom Shift, Level 1, Purple Epic, Repair as Original, Level 1, White Normal, *3, Obstacled, Level 1, White Normal, *5 Floating Curse, Level 1, White Normal, *18 Avada's Life, Level 1, Purple Epic, Diamond Heart Mantra, Level 1, Purple Epic, Speed Imprisonment, Level 1, Blue Treasure, Unified Petrochemical, Level 1, Blue Treasure, Animagus, Special Card, Title. None Magic Value. 10 Magic Essence. 0 Dueling Point. 7. He was casually thrown into the room and locked up. The batter walked over and threw the chocolate in disgust in front of Dewey. The big shots in the Ministry of Magic are kind-hearted and cannot bear to see these prisoners too miserable. To waste chocolate on this kind of trash is to make the batter feel very unhappy. The batters were full of slander. Before leaving, he held his wand and solemnly threatened Dewey. If Dewey dared to make a scene at this moment, I will ask the Dementors to take good care of you, kid. The hitter threatened to point at Dewey with his apple wood and unicorn fur wand. Dewey ignored the hitter and did not care about his disgust. He picked up chocolate from the soil and stuffed it into his mouth. In an instant, sweetness and a slight bitterness filled his mouth, giving him great satisfaction. He even smelled the aroma of chocolate. Drunk, Dewey squinted his eyes and didn't think anything. He just wants to keep this beauty. It wasn't until now that he felt like he had come back to life. This is the most beautiful taste. This is the taste of living. I'm afraid I'll also become an old bee, but what's the point? Sugar, what a wonderful thing. He let out a comfortable moan, collapsed on the ground, and began to shift into a duel spot. Turn all duel points into magic points. Magic value, 80. Watching these magic values, Dewey couldn't help but shed tears. He covered his face with both hands and cried silently. After a while, he disappeared here. A small golden beetle appeared in place, looking extremely inconspicuous. Yes, that's it. Soon, Dewey underwent a transformation, and this time there was no danger at all. As a special card, Animagus naturally has special side effects. This side effect is not caused by cards. The original problem with Animagus was that it was difficult for it to become a magical creature. After becoming an animal, human thinking will gradually disappear and converge towards real animals. Even if using cards, it's the same. As a special card, Animagus can maintain longevity with one transformation. If he doesn't mind really turning into a golden beetle. Animagus succeeded. Prison break can start now. Dewey began to carefully and meticulously plan his next actions. As long as he escapes from Azkaban, he will be free. Working day after day not only consumes the lives of the prisoners, but also the passion of the batter. They have the same vicious nature as the bureaucrats of the Ministry of Magic, just muddling along and fooling things around. So for the next step, time, he needs to set a time difference. Dewey is very clear-headed. The batters will count the number of prisoners after the big shots in the Ministry of Magic leave, which means they may soon notice that he is missing. At this time, before the early hours of tomorrow, after that, the Dementors will appear, and the batters do not want to appear in front of the Dementors. Of course, hitters may not come to count the number of people. The English wizards, like their muggles, are equally free and unrestrained. Dewey's brain was running rapidly. Thanks to that piece of chocolate, Dewey thought a lot. Anyway, he had to make sure he left this sea safely. Or there could be more adventurous ways. Phantom shifting. The entire Azkaban and nearby waters are prohibited from ghosting, and someone has cast a spell here. But on the high seas, the phantom shift was not restricted. After being discovered, he can completely transform and leave here. Dewey carefully scrutinized the details and saw the cards he had learned. He also saw the roll of first-level cards, but they were not very useful. With so many cards, he needs to keep the most useful ones, then upgrade the most useful magic, destroy the temporarily unused cards, and turn them into essence. Magic card upgrades increase in multiples. Card upgrades require the fusion of identical cards. First level card requires a magic card. Second level cards require 2 magic cards. Level 3 cards require 6 magic cards. Level 4 cards require 8 magic cards. And so on. Undoubtedly, the phantom shift requires early learning. The Diamond Heart mantra is temporarily useless and can be transformed into essence. It is a pity that he did not obtain the soul-seizing curse, one of the 3 unforgivable curses. Avada lethal, single unit attack, simple and effective, worth preserving. Armor protection, protective spells, worth learning. In that case, Dewey quickly made a decision. What he wanted to add was Avada's death, phantom shift, and armor protection. He could have self-taught the remaining spells after being released from prison. To increase the strength of the spell card, it requires essence. Essence, you can get it by destroying the magic card. Commonly known as anti-dust. White card, copy 1 card for 100 dust, blue card for 800 dust, purple card for 1600 dust, and gold card for 3200 dust. Destroying them will only yield a quarter of the dust. And the meaning of copying is that without a template, it cannot be made out of thin air. Dewey maintains a stable mood as he nervously converts. Except for the 3 magic cards he selected, Dewey destroyed all the other cards and obtained the essence of 2225. His system has become User Dewey Jones, pseudonym, learned cards. Armor protection, level 1, white normal, *4 phantom shift, level 1, purple epic, Avada's life, level 1, purple epic, Animagus, special card, title. None magic value. 80 magic essence. 2225 dueling point. 0, he carefully calculated and found that the phantom shift could be added to level 2. The essence is still not enough. Dewey pursed his mouth, squinted his eyes, and in the moment he saw the essence, he wanted to crawl out and beat someone again. But soon, he dispelled this idea. It is obvious that he has been locked up, which means that the big shot has already arrived. If he bumped into those big shots, he would probably be unilaterally suppressed and beaten. He is not a match for those hitters. What if there is an elite aurora here? When Dewey thought of this, he first copied a shape-shifting card 1600 and synthesized a second-level shape-shifting card. Phantom shift, phantom shift. Go wherever you want, but when you leave, it's best to think about the distance. The farther the distance, the more dangerous the magic becomes. Never forget the 3D principle. Hi sir, Ghost Pavilion prohibits the use of phantom shape-shifting. What is the difference in upgrading a card? Distance. The upgrade of the phantom shape-shifting card is unclear to Dewey. He looked at the remaining 625 and carefully considered before deciding to replicate the armor. He already has 4 pieces of armor to protect himself. Adding 6 more sheets will make 10 sheets. 10 pieces of armor can elevate the iron armor to level 3. A 3rd level protective spell, a 2nd level phantom shape-shifting, and a 1st level Avada's life cycle. He doesn't know if his 3 axes can cast spells face to face with the batters. Dewey closed his eyes and pondered on his escape route. After a while, he heard footsteps coming from outside. Looking up, Dewey saw a short, chubby man walking towards him, full of energy, and beside him, he even followed the journalist. This short and chubby man has a head of gray hair, greasy and pressed against his forehead. He talks loudly outside the door, not even glancing at the prisoners inside, and strides inside. The reporter behind glanced at Dewey. Dewey watched coldly as the man walked towards the area of severe offenders, lowering his head, making it difficult to see his face clearly. From the words and phrases of these people, Dewey heard that the old man in front of him seemed to be the current Minister of Magic. Minister of Magic. Dewey sat on the ground, thinking maliciously, how many years would it take for this Minister of Magic to become as thin as Sirius Black if he were to be thrown into Azkaban? There will be one day. Dewey sat inside the prison, earnestly waiting for time to pass. He listened to the footsteps outside and spent his days like a year. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Leaving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Leaving. Fuji specially went to see Sirius Black and took a photo with him. This stubborn member of the mysterious man, who killed 12 demons on the street, is undoubtedly a worthy subject of attention. He is also a person worth promoting. This is a promotional strategy that he had already finalized before coming. After taking photos, Fuji planned to leave. Sirius asked Fuji if he could leave the prophets daily. I want to play the spelling game above. He pointed to the newspaper and said to Fuji. Fuji gestured to the reporter behind him to film this scene. Of course, Mr. Black. For the descendants of this pure-blooded family, Fuji appeared very friendly and magnanimous. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there aren't any places worth visiting here. Let's go back. Fuji took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He walked out of the castle with a few people. Arriving at the beach and looking at the setting sun, Fuji breathed a sigh of relief. I have completed another task and can go back now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take one last photo here. Look at the sunset, how beautiful it is. He opened his arms and said, and the journalist following naturally had no objections. Okay, Minister. They stood next to Fuji and took a photo as a journalist gestured to stare at the camera. In the photo, Fuji smiled happily, while Azkaban behind him remained so cold and stern. After taking the photos, Fuji called in several batters for encouragement and training. He doesn't like this place at all. Even without a Dementor, it would be difficult for him to maintain a smile on his face. Leaving the castle, Fuji felt relaxed all over. I will never come to this damn place again. Fuji swore in his heart. Just as everyone was enjoying themselves, they didn't see a small golden beetle emerge from the dilapidated and collapsed castle and quietly enter the ship. That's Dewey. Compared to the last ship that escorted the Death Eaters here, this ship appears quite luxurious. The second floor is like an enlarged yacht, with a dedicated coffee shop and lounge, but without lighting, it is lit by candles. When Dewey flew in, the candles were singing. Singing, literally meaning singing, with your mouth open and full of joy. Dewey quietly hid in the corner. This looks like a bedroom. After a while, Dewey heard Fuji's broad and talkative voice, from far to near. He walked towards this room. These people boarded the ship, and someone used a wand to tap on the boat's crew, causing the ship to take action on its own. Well, Azkaban is really an uncomfortable place. Fuji was talking to someone, and Dewey heard the sound of the chair pulling, followed by the sound of two people sitting on the chair. Dewey saw two legs. Do you want something? Tea? Coffee? The Minister of Magic asked, and the person across from him said, no, no need, water is enough. Good. The Minister of Magic's hands remained motionless, but there was a sound of tea pouring down. In Dewey's perspective, he could only see the legs of two people. Dewey's mind was very tense because he knew he was still in an extremely dangerous situation, and he didn't know when the batters in prison would find him missing. He also doesn't know when he will be discovered by these people. The Minister of Magic and the person opposite him are still talking. But this time, their topic shifted to Dumbledore. They mentioned Dumbledore's name. Fuji is a bit distressed. My owl, yes, when I write letters to the owl flying to Hogwarts, I always don't get a reply. He sounded somewhat dissatisfied with Dumbledore. Complaints flowed continuously from his mouth. The person sitting opposite him didn't speak. Listening to the commotion, he picked up his teacup and took a sip of water. He doesn't want to get involved in the trouble between the minister and Dumbledore. He is just a listener. Dewey was having wild thoughts there. He needs to keep his mind constantly running. He needs to remember that he is a person and fight against the side effects of animagus. I want to keep my mind running, so who is he? A person who keeps writing letters to Dumbledore, a cowardly minister, he is Fudge. Fuji, this person should be Fuji, Minister of Magic Fuji. How many years have I been imprisoned in Azkaban? Fuji stepped on stage, and Harry Potter also started school. What grade is he in? Wait, Sirius hasn't escaped from prison yet, which means Harry Potter hasn't reached 3rd grade yet. Is it 1st grade or 2nd grade? Dewey's brainstorm, fast running. Fuji also talked a lot with the person in front of him, and through his words, Dewey found that the Minister of Magic was simply a rascal. He was constantly complaining about Dumbledore to his subordinates, who occasionally said, Fudge didn't think there was any problem. I won't ask Dumbledore again in the future. He swore fiercely in the end. Dewey didn't know how long it had been until the ship suddenly stopped. This is a sign of landing. The door suddenly opened, pouring in cold air and stirring up the steam of the hot water. A batter familiar to Dewey, rushed in from outside. Minister, Dewey recognized the pants of the hitter, which were light blue striped pants that had not been cleaned for a long time and had oil stains on them. Some prisoners are missing. What? Fuji suddenly stood up, because of surprise. He didn't go to help the chair, but instead tilted it upside down. Just as Dewey thought the chair would fall, the 4 legs of the chair slightly bent and stood on the side cursing. Is this magic? Dewey thought that Fuji didn't pay attention to these things. He took a deep breath and tried to make himself look calm and composed. What's going on? I mean, who escaped? Dewey Jones, a Death Eater. The hitter said quickly. Dewey Jones. Fuji licked his lips and said, this is bad news, isn't it? It's bad news. He walked back and forth, looking extremely restless. Dewey saw his footsteps heavy and made a loud noise on the ground. He walked up to Walker and asked with a glimmer of hope, are you sure he escaped, Walker? I didn't disappear for any reason, I escaped, I didn't die, I didn't hide somewhere. You didn't see me. Have you finished searching the entire island? Dementors, have they also gone to investigate? Are you sure you really escaped, not dead? Dewey saw that Fuji was very evasive about someone escaping from Azkaban. He doesn't want to believe that someone can escape from Azkaban. In these centuries, such a situation has not occurred. Yes, Minister. Walker said. Dewey looked at the applewood wand. Originally, his name was Walker. Dewey said to himself. Walker said anxiously, please come with us. We need to carefully inspect this ship to ensure that Dewey is not here and has harmed you. We have also contacted Aurora, and soon, Aurora will rush over from the Ministry of Magic. The ship has already docked. Okay, I'm going to write a letter to Dumbledore, all of this is just ridiculous. I need Dumbledore's help, Fuji said. He was supported by Walker as he walked out, and the staff member followed suit. Dewey cautiously walked out of the corner and flew towards the door. It's a mess outside. As a Death Eater, although not as famous as Bella and Sirius, and Antonin Dolohov, Dewey is at least a heinous Death Eater. More importantly, Dewey was the first, or at least the first known escape from prison for centuries. This is too thrilling to be believed by Fuji. The batters boarded the ship, and Dewey was ready to deliver a desperate blow at any moment. He simulated a battle in his mind, using the iron armor curse to defend against a spell, and then he could teleport and leave here. Animagus is not invincible, he remembers that Lupin had a way to make Animagus appear. However, Dewey found that he clearly overestimated this group of foodies. Even as batters, they never thought of the possibility of Animagus. They hurriedly searched and escorted the minister and reporters away. Dewey flew off the ship and disappeared here without even knowing where it was. Half a day later. Hogwarts is like opening a zoo. Professor McGonagall, who was resting at home, felt surprised by it. She was supposed to be at home, but ended up seeing countless owls flying to Hogwarts, thinking something big had happened. She hurriedly arrived at the school and saw many curious faculty members observing the owls in the sky. The school is on vacation, and there are fewer little troublemakers in the school. Especially those two cute little ones surnamed Weasley. Without them, Mr. Filch would be much more relaxed. Entering the principal's office, Professor McGonagall opened his mouth to inquire. Principal, what's going on at Hogwarts? The tall Hagrid saw Professor McGonagall and quickly greeted her. Professor McGonagall also nodded and said, "It's really nice to see you, Hagrid." Hagrid brought back some of the owls. These owls have traveled a long distance, and some require careful care before they can fly back. Only McGonagall and Dumbledore were left in the office. Dumbledore waved his wand and asked Professor McGonagall to sit down. Listening to Professor McGonagall's inquiry, Dumbledore casually said, "It's not a big deal," as he read the letter, "it's just that Azkaban escaped as a prisoner." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Principal, Vice Principal, and Future Principal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Principal, Vice Principal, and Future Principal. What? Azkaban escaped a prisoner. Professor McGonagall's voice grew louder, and she opened her eyes in disbelief as she looked at the principal. She doesn't understand. Is it a small matter that the prisoners of Azkaban have escaped? Dumbledore picked up another letter and said calmly, "Yes, a Death Eater named Dewey Jones has escaped." Maliva, do you still remember this name? Humph, he used to be our Ravenclaw child, and he should have taken your transformation spell class. McGonagall sat down and reminisced carefully. He remembered Dewey Jones, a gloomy child who didn't like to talk, but was very intelligent. He had black hair and blue eyes. He is very tall and thin. Yes, I remember him. Professor McGonagall couldn't help but say, "But Principal, why did anyone escape from Azkaban?" Dumbledore looked calmly at McGonagall from behind his crescent-shaped glasses and said, "Nothing is absolutely impossible, Maliva. I have a book on topology and logic written by Professor Muggle here, and I think you can also read these books. I saw the crystallization of wisdom from these books, and in fact, their wisdom is also very inspiring, isn't it? Dumbledore warmly recommends. No need, Principal. Professor McGonagall politely declined. She thought a lot when she heard about the Death Eater's escape from prison. Before leaving, she hesitated slightly and asked, "What I mean is the escape of Dewey related to the mysterious man, or Voldemort?" Professor McGonagall tried hard to name Voldemort. Dumbledore put down the letter. He looked at Professor McGonagall seriously and organized his words, saying, "Is Voldemort. It shouldn't be a problem, he's seriously injured now and should still be recuperating. This should be an isolated event. Dear, don't worry about this matter, I will handle it well." Dumbledore deliberately spoke in a relaxed tone and said to Professor McGonagall, "Can you please help me call Professor Snape over? I have something to ask him." Good. Professor McGonagall walked out, and after a while, Snape walked in. He still wears that old-fashioned outfit, with black hair, a hooked nose, and waxy yellow skin. He always looks serious, and his hair looks like it hasn't been washed for many years, just as greasy as Fuji's. He hurriedly walked in. "What's up, Dumbledore?" "I'm making potions." He called the principal by name. Dumbledore didn't care about this matter. "Severus," Dumbledore said gently, "I want to know something. Dewey Jones, Death Eater Dewey Jones, do you remember him?" Dewey Jones. Severus Snape pondered seriously for a moment, then took out his wand and lightly flicked it at his own head, sending a hint of silver divine energy into the meditation basin. After carefully observing and flipping through this memory and confirming that there were no omissions, Snape said, "Yes, I remember. This guy voluntarily joined the Death Eaters halfway through. He is a submissive yet ambitious guy. He is one of millions of Death Eaters, but unlike some of the Death Eaters who were kidnapped to join the Dark Lord, he desperately wanted to get close to Voldemort after joining the Death Eaters. He wanted to learn more black magic around Voldemort and gain higher power. Yes, I still remember his ambitious, desperately trying to climb up in the eyes. Young, wild, full of desire. At the beginning, he approached the pure-blood family Malfoy. Lucia said he was a follower, a flatterer, and a bottomless flattery. After being rejected, he approached Antonin Donahoff, Rodolfo Lestrange, Gore, and others in turn. All were rejected. After that incident, Voldemort disappeared. Speaking of that matter, Snape paused for a moment before saying, after Voldemort disappeared, he and Bella went to search for Auror, interrogated Voldemort's whereabouts, and after being caught, they were thrown into Azkaban. After speaking about the life of Dewey Jones, Snape then asked, "What's wrong with him?" "He escaped from prison and escaped from Azkaban. Fuji was very worried and wrote to me asking what to do." Dumbledore said. "Prison break. This is impossible." Snape was greatly shocked by this. He knew how terrifying Azkaban was on the island, and even if he was thrown into Azkaban, he might not be able to escape. How could Dewey, such an ordinary person, escape from Azkaban? How did he do it? Snape couldn't help but ask. "I don't know, Severus, I don't know." Dumbledore shook his head and stood up. "The question now is, Severus, do you feel his call?" Snape shook his head. "No, he has never summoned us." Dumbledore still suspected Voldemort. Upon hearing that Voldemort had not summoned his followers, Dumbledore became much more relaxed. He defined Dewey's prison escape incident, saying that it may just be an accident and it doesn't seem like a big deal. Then someone came to Hogwarts using flyer powder. "Something big is going on, Dumbledore." Merlin's beard, "It's hard to imagine how bad things would be. Someone is shouting and shouting under the spiral staircase in the principal's office." He was stopped by a stone statue. Fuji didn't seem to have the dignity of a minister of magic at the moment. His forehead was covered in sweat, but he didn't have time to wipe it off with a handkerchief. Dumbledore allowed him to enter the principal's office, and Fudge excitedly grabbed Dumbledore's hand. His hands were sticky, filled with sweat and grease. Dumbledore didn't care about this matter. He stared at Fudge gently and said, "Don't worry, Connolly, speak slowly." Something big happened. Fuji wailed and said, Black has escaped from prison. He has also escaped from Azkaban, and the Dementors are no longer credible. He panicked, and in less than 3 days, 2 Death Eaters escaped from prison one after another. This is a huge scandal. Even if he wanted to cover up these 2 things with other big news, he couldn't find anything more terrifying than this. There's nothing more serious than this. If it were just Dewey Jones escaping from prison. This matter is relatively easy to cover up. Dewey Jones, an unknown person. Who would care about such a follower? He was completely crushed by Sirius Black, who is one of the most famous Death Eaters of modern times and the last heir to the Black pure-blood family. He is closely related to almost all existing pure-blood families, even the thriving Malfoy family and the halfway-up Potter family, whose wealth and influence are not as good as the Black family. Even if he became a prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius controlled the last resources of the Black family, raising elves, wealth, movable and immovable property. His escape from prison was like a thunderbolt, leaving poor Fuji completely disoriented. He lost his own opinion and came to see Dumbledore in person. Like a child who hasn't been weaned yet, seek help from their mother. "It's okay, Connolly, it's okay." Dumbledore comforted Fudge and looked at Snape, sensing his gaze and seeing the flames burning in his eyes. He understood Snape's gaze. He wants to seek revenge. For those who killed Lily, whether it was Voldemort or Sirius, he treated them equally. "Okay, Connolly, calm down." Dumbledore gestured for Fudge to sit down. His calmness was not only spoken to Fudge, but also to Snape. "It's okay, it's okay." He brewed a cup of tea for Fuji, gesturing for him to take a sip and calm down. "Have you taken any measures, Fuji?" Dumbledore asked Fudge. Yes, I have taken measures. I have instructed all the Aurors and Strikers from the Ministry of Magic to set out in search of these 2 individuals. I have also spoken to the Prime Minister of Muggle and have them listed as wanted nationwide. Now on Muggle's newspapers and TV, there should be photos of the 2 of them. Fuji couldn't catch his breath. In a hurry, he even brushed aside the secrecy law and issued dangerous wanted notices for both of them, whether they were Muggles or wizards. The card has a full face. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. A Free Bee. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. A Free Bee. Dewey looked at the newspaper with a complex expression on his face. In 1993. He stood in front of the mirror, looking at himself inside. In the mirror, he was as thin as a bone rack wearing a Mickey-colored windbreaker. Long-term lack of nutrition and not being exposed to the sun made his skin look like a vampire, fair but without luster. His face was thin and disfigured, looking a bit scary. He slightly extended his finger and touched his not smooth skin before starting to shave. Did I look like this before? Dewey muttered to himself. This male owner is not as tall as him. But when he put on the man's windbreaker, he looked empty, like an empty frame. Losing freedom, it's been so long. At this moment, he exposed his teeth and burst out laughing. He turned his head and arrived at the kitchen. Dewey stood barefoot in the kitchen, found honey and sugar, boiled water, and threw the tea bag into the teacup. 1 spoonful of honey, 2 spoonfuls of honey, 3 spoonfuls of honey, half a cup of honey. Then add sugar. Finally, brew hot water. The aroma of black tea filled the air, and Dewey enjoyed sniffing it very much. Sweet breath. He looked out the window and saw the rising sun. He turned on the TV again and started making breakfast. He is currently in Surrey, southeast of England, not far from London. This is a middle-class community. As summer vacation approaches, the owner of this community takes their children on vacation to London. The whole house is empty. Lettuce, tomatoes, onions, fried eggs, a simple sandwich was stuffed into his mouth without any sauce, but he still ate it deliciously. The taste of freedom. He took a sip of sweet and toothless tea, and finally felt like he had come to life. The news was being broadcasted on TV, and just as Dewey was eating and drinking enough and planning to squint for a while, two parallel wanted posters appeared on the TV. Sirius's rebellious eyes, messy beard, and hair appeared on television. Next to him was the emaciated and gloomy Dewey. The host said they were two extremely dangerous murderers with guns in their hands. After discovering them, residents were asked to call. Dewey looked at the wanted notice, completely drowsy. He felt that the person calling might be Auror from the Ministry of Magic. Sirius has also escaped from prison. It's really fast. He was not surprised by Sirius's escape from prison. He knew it was summer vacation in 1993 and knew that Sirius would escape from prison. Sirius was originally released around this time. After Fuji went to Azkaban for inspection, Sirius escaped from prison. Compared to taking Fuji's downwind boat, Sirius turned into a big black dog swimming over, making it even more difficult. Their purpose of escaping from prison is also different. Sirius is for the safety of his son, and Dewey is for freedom. The most important thing is that Dewey came out of Azkaban alone, without even the savings of Gringotts, and now he can't even afford to buy clothes. Without any gold or a penny, he was poor and honest. Sirius came out, and he was still the last heir of the Black family, able to buy the top flying brooms and fire crossbows in the magical world at once. But they are all facing the same situation. Chasing soldiers. It seems that they have all been targeted by both the wizarding world and Muggles, and their lives are uncertain. Dewey intervened and sat up, carefully considering the next countermeasures. Prison break is a continuous action. To escape justice, he must continue to fight against the Ministry of Magic and improve his mana. Only when his mana reaches a certain level can he ignore the threat from the Ministry of Magic. At present, he has nowhere to go. The Death Eaters are untrustworthy, Voldemort is also untrustworthy, and the White Demon King cannot be trusted. The Death Eaters who are still at large are either traitors, spies, or wall grass. They won't help Dewey. The Black and White Demon King cannot face each other. Dumbledore and Voldemort are the two masters of telepathy in the world. He couldn't hide his thoughts from either of these eyes at all, unless he had practiced the brain-sealing technique to an extremely advanced level, like Snape. The problem is that Severus Snape did this because he was a chess piece buried by Voldemort next to Dumbledore. Voldemort knew the strength of his former principal and tacitly allowed his subordinates to do so. Snape is very important to Voldemort, and Voldemort is also very accommodating. Even if Voldemort knew that Snape was sometimes lying, he didn't care. He needs Snape. But he doesn't need Dewey. The same goes for the White Demon King. Dewey doesn't want anyone constantly stirring in his mind, flipping through his memories like flipping through a book. Where should I go then? Dewey looked at the owl fluttering outside, a little lost in thought, and even now, a fire was burning in his heart. Yesterday he lay sleeping on the cold floor. Very well, but he still fell asleep. It's not that he doesn't want to go to bed. He is no longer familiar with the bed. He slept on the cold ground for 11 years, and his arthritis was so painful that he couldn't bend his joints. He curled up on the floor, like a baby, having countless nightmares and sweat soaking through his back. When he woke up, there was no sense of emptiness. Because he knows what he needs to do. He is going to throw the group of rice barrels from the Ministry of Magic into Azkaban. Take down the top management of Death Eaters. If possible, take out the Black Demon King by the way. Revenge is an eternal flame burning in his heart that cannot be extinguished. I need more cards and more magic. Dewey carefully and seriously considered the next action. He needs to grasp a certain level, he needs to attack wizards, but cannot attract too many wizards to surround him. If you go looking for wizards, there are wizards in Hogwarts, Diagon Alley, Inverted Alley, Ministry of Magic, Hogsmeade, St. Mungo Magical Hospital, Newmont Guard, all of these places, but he is not Voldemort. If he goes to these places, he will only be killed alive or caught by Dementors, and have a close kiss. So the safest place is actually... Dewey stood up and began to tidy up himself. The safest place is 4, Privet Drive. Harry Potter will soon blow his annoying Aunt Maggie into a balloon and run away from home. In the next 10 minutes, 2 members of the Incident Reversal Department will go to 4, Privet Drive to deal with the mess left by Harry Potter. Yes, 2 members of the Ministry of Magic, they are not hitters, not Aurora, and not skilled in combat. More importantly, they are qualified wizards. They have 2 wands and information about their colleagues. Dewey quickly finalized the plan. He rummaged through the boxes and cabinets, and got a pair of leather shoes that didn't fit very well. He put on his clothes and pants crookedly, and used Phantom Shift to leave here. Thank you for your gift. Before leaving, he found a piece of paper and wrote with grievances. After I succeed, I will pay you a reward. This is an IOU. Dewey's phantom movement has flaws, it is indeed a flaw in spatial distance. For some people with high magic power, such as Voldemort, he can perform phantom transformation from a long distance, but Dewey cannot. He cannot directly phantom transformation to Privet Drive, he can only slowly and repeatedly phantom transformation. I hope I won't be late. Dewey said to himself. Fortunately, this time his past was quite timely. When he arrived, poor Harry Potter had not been tortured by his aunt yet. He was racking his brains in the attic room, doing his homework. Dewey was not close to Privet Drive, which was a closely monitored area. If he was seen by the squibs left there, Dumbledore would teach him how to be a good person. Dewey doesn't feel like he's currently a match for Dumbledore. As night fell, he held a stone and accurately smashed the streetlights on Privet Drive and several nearby streets, plunging the surroundings into darkness. Anger came from around, but it did not affect Dewey's behavior. He hid in the darkness and recklessly carried out destruction. After he knocked out all the streetlights and fell into darkness. What are you doing here? In the darkness, a pair of bright eyes stared at Dewey. A big black dog appeared from the bushes and transformed into the tall appearance of Sirius Black. Sirius looked at Dewey with a strong threat. Spring fatigue and autumn fatigue, overslept, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Humble Wish of the Godfather, Seeking Follow. Up reading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Humble Wish of the Godfather, Seeking Follow. Up reading. Seeing Dewey here, Sirius grinned and looked like a big dog threatening to invade his territory. Dewey is not welcome here. Dewey took out a piece of chocolate from his clothes and broke it. Half myself, half black. He carefully held the chocolate crumbs in his hand and slammed them into his mouth. I'm not here to find Harry Potter. I am not interested in your godson. Dewey said clearly, I'm here to find officials from the Ministry of Magic. There aren't any officials from the Ministry of Magic here, Dewey. When it comes to Harry Potter's safety, Sirius is extremely vigilant, staring at Dewey and ready to take action at any time. Dewey spread out his hand. Chocolate melted in his mouth. This is simply the most delicious taste in the world. After tasting the delicious food, Dewey's mood calmed down a lot. Just last year, Dewey said, your godson almost got fired from Hogwarts for using magic in front of muggles. Don't you know about this? Do you think he looks like a child who is obedient and obedient? He looks so much like James Potter. Do you think James Potter is a person who keeps his composure? Sirius. Son inherits father's business, Sirius Black. He's not such a quiet person, waiting for rabbits here. Opportunities are much greater than elsewhere, right? Sirius Black took the chocolate. Big dogs are not allowed to eat chocolate. Black can do it. So, you're here to try your luck. He is half believing and half doubting Dewey's words. That's right, that's it. Dewey said with certainty. As he spoke, the two headlights tore open the darkness. A car turned over from the street with the window open, and the people inside were complaining frantically. Damn it, why are the street lights black? Someone shouted loudly in the car, and there were dogs barking in the back seat. Dewey and Sirius disappeared into the darkness, and only after the car passed did they emerge from the darkness. It's them. Sirius recognized the person getting off the car, with a bad gaze and grinding his teeth. The Desley family got off the car. They just went to pick up Aunt Maggie from the countryside. Dewey watched the woman, who looked the same as Uncle Vernon in terms of body shape and appearance, get out of the car. She looked very happy and hugged Dolly, kissing and kissing. What about that little bastard? What's his name, Harry? Aunt Maggie ignored Peggy's face and shouted loudly. Dewey caught Sirius Black with a foresight. You can't tear them into pieces, Blake, Dewey said seriously. That won't make any good changes to your parenting life, things will only get worse, Blake. Dewey warned in advance. Blake's strength was immense, and Dewey could hardly control this strong man. Just as Dewey was thinking about whether he was an Avada asking him to quiet down, Sirius stopped. How could they treat Harry like this? How could they say that to James and Lily? Sirius whispered and roared. He looks like he's about to turn into a big dog and rush out. Aunt Maggie's trumpet dog let out a and curiously glanced towards this side, tilting its head. Calm down, Sirius Black. If you kill them, how will you face Harry Potter in the future? Hi Harry, I'm Sirius Black. I killed your aunt and uncle. Nice to meet you, isn't it? Do you think it's cool to say hello like this? Dewey growled angrily in his ear. He had to stop and hold Sirius Black, a strong man who was extremely difficult to deal with even without transformation. Undoubtedly, Uncle Vernon and Aunt Peggy's abuse of little Harry is comprehensive and multifaceted, but this does not mean that Sirius can rush over and tear up these two people. He can deprive these two people of custody, but he cannot tear them apart. That will attract a large number of elite members from the Ministry of Magic. Dewey cannot ask Sirius Black to do this. Dewey is going fishing. What he wants are two small fish, not elite Aurora. Whether it's Kingsley or crazy-eyed Moody, they are not the ones he can deal with at the current stage. Okay, I understand. You can let go of me now. Upon hearing this, Sirius Black quieted down a bit, panting heavily as he sat on the ground, feeling remorseful alone. Because of his mistake, his name is Harry and he has suffered so much over the years. Dewey looked at number 4 Privet Drive in a trance. Aunt Maggie's voice was very loud, and Dewey and Sirius Black secretly approached Uncle Vernon's house. Dewey deliberately avoided the nearby eyes to ensure that he was not detected. If he remembered correctly, there was an old squib lady nearby, which was Dumbledore's eyeliner. He was very certain that if Dumbledore were here, neither he nor Sirius would be able to escape. He can't attract Dumbledore alone, plus a Sirius Black, that's not necessarily true. The two of them heard Aunt Maggie's roar in the restaurant, mixed with the barking of a dog called Lippy, and the scene was chaotic for a while. So, Aunt Maggie's voice could be heard by both Dewey and Sirius Black outside, and she asked rudely, "You're still here, aren't you?" She should be asking Harry Potter. Harry Potter is responding, and Dewey speculates that he should have said yes. This answer angered Aunt Maggie. Don't use your ungrateful tone to say yes. Vernon and Peggy kindly took you in, they are really very kind to you. For me, facing you little bastard, if someone throws you at my doorstep, I will definitely throw you into an orphanage. Do you understand? So, when facing us, you need to understand humility, okay? We saved you, you little bastard. Don't look at me with that kind of gaze. Upon hearing Aunt Maggie's explosive remarks, Dewey turned to Sirius Black again. He was not worried that Harry Potter would hit his aunt with a Avada's life gesture. He was afraid that Sirius Black would be provoked by Maggie, and after a violent outburst, he would rush in and bite all the people inside to death. Who knew that when he turned his head, he saw the sparkling eyes of Sirius Black. He no longer seemed to want to tear the Dursley family to pieces. He looks as if he has made a certain decision. Turning to look at Dewey, Sirius Black nervously licked his lips and pondered, "You say, I mean, if I catch Peter the Dwarf soon, can I clear my grievances? I didn't do the 13 lives and the defection to the Black Demon King. Can it prove my innocence? At that time, I had a house, I had sufficient financial strength, and I was still a free person. Can I apply to change Harry Potter's custody?" "That's right, don't look at me like that. I'm his godfather, he's my godson, and I could have been his guardian," Sirius Black said, looking eagerly at Dewey and wanting to hear "yes." Dewey pondered for a moment and said, "It seems feasible." That's good," Sirius Black said longingly. He was looking at Dewey, but Dewey could tell that Sirius Black's gaze had long been illusory. He is imagining a beautiful future. Subconsciously, Dewey wanted to slap him and wake him up. Such beautiful memories will attract Dementors. But soon, Dewey realized that it was not in Azkaban. It's good to ask him to imagine things like this, at least not to worry about him doing something wrong under impulse. He averted his gaze and looked towards the room. There was a scream coming out of the room. If Dewey was right, it was Harry Potter who was completely angered by his Aunt Maggie, lost control of his magic, and blew his aunt into a balloon. Spell without a staff. A noisy voice came out of the house in front of him. After a while, Dewey saw Harry Potter, the famous adult in the wizarding world, rushing out of the room with a strong aura. He turned his back to the street, held a wand, and pulled a large box. Uncle Vernon seemed like a standing bear, fearing and angry as he rushed out of the door, looking at Harry Potter. "Come back, I want you to restore the situation to its original state." He shouted and spat at Harry. Harry Potter pointed his wand at his uncle and said firmly, "No." He said firmly, "I'm leaving now, I've had enough of you. I won't restore these to their original state." He resolutely turned his head and walked towards the darkness. Dewey patted Sirius and accidentally hit a big black dog. The big black dog glanced at Dewey, assimilated into the darkness, and disappeared. End of this chapter.